Coming up, time for RAs at UNC. We'll have the latest on the student employee layoffs.
Fewer students are on campus, but they could still be making the biggest turnout in election history. We'll explain.
Business may be slowed due to the pandemic, but town leaders are finding creative ways to bring the hustle and bustle back to Franklin Street.
From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Hello and welcome to Carolina Week. I'm Gray Hurley.
And I'm Molly Cummings. We start this afternoon with more on the student employee layoffs. Residential advisors have been told that their jobs for the school year are about to end next month. For more on this story, we turn to Carolina Week reporter Perry Price. Perry?
Student housing employees had been asking the school since the start of the semester about their employment status. They have now been told they are being consolidated to a few dorms at the end of September and will receive their last paychecks at the end of October. Second-year RA Crystal Silva says she hasn't been told how many residents remain in her hall or what responsibilities she will have after she moves into a new one. She also says the RAs have been asked to see their contracts but have not had clear access to them. Silva says the employees suspected something would change this semester, but didn't know it would feel like this.
It's really, really nerve-wracking to just feel like everything's up in the air constantly and not have that like job security or stability in like where I'm living.
The university cited their loss in revenue as the reason for terminating the contracts. Silva says she believes it is all about the money. Otherwise, they would keep the students as spread out as possible instead of consolidating.
Many students were left scrambling when UNC announced they had to leave campus. Reporter Patsy Montesinos talked to a student who was navigating the situation while being away from family.
Junior Lizzie Rivera said she's always wanted to study in the States, to experience a different culture. After learning she won a scholarship at Carolina, she decided to attend, leaving her family behind.
Away from family, at least for me, it's not easy, but I try not to think about it too much. It makes it like easier for me to deal being so far away from them.
For Rivera, it's convenient to be on campus because she doesn't have a car, and Target is only a short walk away. But when the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill shifted to entirely remote instruction, it left many students like Rivera feeling stressed.
I'm not gonna lie, I started crying. It was like the first instinct reaction, I guess.
When UNC told students to go home or move off campus, Rivera didn't know where she would live.
Financially, what am I gonna do? Like, can I even go off campus? Is it still, am I gonna be able to find some place? I guess I could have requested for hardship, but one thing for me is just I didn't want to be alone. Like, already being alone far away from my family is hard enough.
And going back to Puerto Rico wasn't an option. Hurricane season lasts until November, and after Hurricane Maria in 2017, Rivera was stranded with no communication for a month.
How can I take classes when I can't even like send a message to my professor like, hey, like I don't have power? Like that's happened to me once when I was in school, and everybody understood, you know, because we were all going through the same thing.
The demands of being near clusters of COVID-19 outbreaks and worrying about where she would live have caused her to fall behind in her classes.
I couldn't do any work the week they announced we had to move. Like, my brain was just not focused enough for me to be able to do, like, even read a few paragraphs. I was like reading them again and again and again, and they were still not processing.
Junior Caroline Presley and Rivera roomed together during the freshman year. Presley felt like the university wasn't doing enough for students with difficult situations, so she offered Rivera her support.
So I knew that if she didn't have anywhere to go, she could always go with me. I knew I could be there for her.
UNC announced a cluster of COVID cases in Rivera's old dorm 2 weeks after she left. Rivera says she's happy she was out before it happened. For now, she's just trying to catch up on her work and stay in touch with her family in the midst of all the uncertainty. In Chapel Hill, I'm Patsy Montesinos reporting.
It's been a tough semester so far for many UNC students. Abruptly leaving campus and taking classes remotely has taken a toll on mental health. Reporter Kennedy Bird spoke with the co-founder of a new peer support program that's aimed to help students through this unusual time.
3 UNC students, Sonam Shah, Sage Atkins, and Toby Turla, created peer-to-peer to help their fellow students. What's the structure of this one-on-one peer support program?
We have a list of peer responders that you can choose from that you'd like to meet with, if you have a preference, and maybe like a little short sentence or two about what it is you'd like to talk about. And then within 48 hours, our peer responder that you requested will reach out to you, and you can set up a time or medium through which you'd like to talk.
How did you guys pick your peer-to-peer supporters?
So when we were initially looking to recruit peer responders, our goal was to kind of target individuals that already had some kind of training or experience or foot in the door of peer support.
How do you think the recent switch to all remote will affect your programming?
I think that shift to completely online classes took away a lot of the only opportunities that people had for social interaction, especially if they're moving away from campus and moving back home. So I think the value of having peers that are always available to talk is even higher now.
Peer-to-peer is working to destigmatize mental health by making it more accessible and offering the choice to be anonymous. In Chapel Hill, Kennedy Bird reporting.
To start getting peer support, you can visit the group's website, peer-to-peersupportnc.weebly.com.
The university is holding all students accountable in preventing the spread of COVID-19. This includes students who live off campus. Now some are making their own rules to stay healthy and safe. This off-campus duplex is home to 8 Carolina seniors. They have worked together to create a space that's both comfortable and secure. Some of their house rules include limiting guests inside the home, requiring guests to wear masks in common spaces, and limiting social interactions with members outside of the home. They also created a sanitizing schedule to ensure the house is always clean.
I think something that's been helpful with our guidelines and rules is, as a student with so much to worry about with school and friendship and a million other things on our plate, for me to not have to worry about my housemates' behavior makes it super helpful to just take one extra thing off of my plate.
UNC's Office of Student Affairs is now receiving daily reports from the Chapel Hill Police Department about off-campus students who are caught violating COVID rules.
Despite the move to online learning, the School of Education is continuing with creating their undergraduate advisory council. The council has 40 members so far and will serve as an ambassador program for students by students. Demarius Mooney, UNC junior and the only Black male on UAC, says the program is the best way to make sure student voices are heard.
It's kind of have students who embody the principles, the goals, and the foundations of the School of Ed, and to bring more people in, and just to have a body of students who, when big decisions happen in the School of Ed, they talk to representatives, which are the UAC, the students on the Undergraduate Advisory Council. We are the voice, we that in between the faculty and the students.
UAC is still in its planning stages. All School of Education undergraduates are welcome to apply to be a part of the group.
Less than half of American college students who are eligible to vote actually hit the polls in the 2016 presidential election. But with North Carolina leading the nation in sending out absentee ballots, it's possible that college students in our state could break previous turnout records. Reporter Jacob Messer has more.
In a year filled with firsts, for many UNC students, this will be their first presidential election as an eligible voter. Senior Leah Brooks received her ballot last week.
I have never voted absentee before, but with the pandemic and just everything going on with the Postal Service as well, I just wanted to make sure that my vote was going to get counted and do it as safe as possible in the middle of a pandemic.
Clearly, this is a popular sentiment among not just college students, but North Carolina voters as a whole. According to the North Carolina State Board of Elections, more than 700,000 ballots have been requested, compared to about 50,000 at this time in 2016. As of September 15th, about 45,000 ballots have been returned and counted. There There are organizations on campus like SEAC, the Civic Engagement Action Coalition, which aims to promote student participation in electoral politics. UNC sophomore Cora Martin, coalition co-coordinator for SEAC, says mail-in voting will play a substantial role in the November election.
But they're expecting something like half of all of the votes on election day to have been cast before election day, which is so much higher than normal, even in a state like North Carolina, where you also have ample early voting in person.
Because of expected high volume, SEAC and other activist groups are asking voters to send in their absentee ballots as early as possible. The last day to request an absentee ballot is October 27th. For Carolina Week, I'm Jacob Messer reporting.
Completed ballots must be received by the Voters County Elections Office by November 3rd.
Several Carolina athletic teams are starting their modified fall seasons. And here to tell us about it is sports reporter Nick Perlin. Nick?
Coming off a heartbreaking loss in last year's championship, the women's soccer team begins its 2020 season Thursday. UNC opens its campaign against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons in Chapel Hill. The Heels were named ACC Conference favorites following their championship game run last season. The national runners-up had 3 players named to the preseason ACC All-Conference team, with sophomore Mason Bell, junior Brianna Pinto, and senior Emily Fox taking home the honor. The team enters the 2020 season looking to win the program's 22nd national championship under head coach Hanson Dorrance. The men's soccer team is also set to kick off its season this week. The Heels play NC State in a preseason scrimmage on Friday in Chapel Hill. The team is predicted to finish 3rd in the ACC behind Wake and Clemson. UNC plays its first regular season game on October 2nd against Duke. Bren Walker is returning to the women's golf team for a 5th year after a crushing end to her senior season. Our Alexa Graham sat down with Walker to see what factored into her return.
Walker has dreamed of playing professional golf since she was a little girl, but a few months ago she decided she wasn't quite ready to leave the collegiate level yet.
I didn't think that the way it ended, obviously we were so upset, and I knew your time in college is just so limited, and with the way the world is right now, this is the best opportunity.
Just because Walker hasn't declared herself a professional doesn't mean she won't be competing at that level. She just announced her sponsor exemption into the LPGA event next month.
So the Chambray Classic is a tournament that's pretty close to my home. It's only about an hour and a half away. So 2 years I've qualified, and now for the 3rd time they've offered me a sponsor exemption straight into the events.
This is a big step toward Walker's end goal of turning pro, which she plans to do after she finishes with the Tar Heels next May.
I guess I graduate in December, and then I'll play the spring, and then when the spring's over, probably within a few weeks I'll turn professional.
Walker has taken her extra time these past few months to work on her blog with a goal of guiding and inspiring younger golfers, something she wishes she had access to when she was growing up.
The main reason I write most of my blogs is just to give you a transparent, authentic documentation of my journey and hopefully inspire others.
An exciting fall with the LPGA should prepare Walker well for her final season as a Tar Heel. In Chapel Hill, I'm Alexa Graham, reporting.
It's great to see the opportunities UNC gives athletes beyond college. That's all for sports. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Nick. Well, if you asked any UNC student the question, what's the most popular street in Chapel Hill? What do you think they'd say, Molly?
Well, I think that's an easy question, Gray. They would say Franklin Street. It's the place we all go to for a bite to eat or to do some shopping, but this pandemic has been tough on Franklin Street businesses. So, as reporter Jasmine Bunch shows us, the town is doing what it can to bring more people.
Businesses on Franklin Street have reopened, and to encourage the return of the usual hustle and bustle, the town council has passed an ordinance to extend the pedestrian walkway into the outermost lane.
People in our town just wanted a way to, get out in a safe manner and, go for a walk or things like that. So expanding those pedestrian and outdoor dining opportunities really helped us to achieve those goals.
What does this look like? Well, this 2-lane street is now a 1-lane.
The walkway has now extended into the street with physical barriers separating pedestrians and bikers from vehicles and oncoming traffic. And right on the other side of these barriers are the new designated on-street parking spaces.
The change is getting mixed reviews from the community.
When we're walking, it makes it much easier to, or feels a little safer, like walking around those people, because it's also like, oh, we can keep our distance.
I didn't know at first why the extra space was there until I researched it. I feel like if there were added signage or some other ways that people knew what it was for, it would be better.
The council has decided to extend the ordinance. Wynn says the community can expect to see this layout for the next few months. In Chapel Hill, Jasmine Bunch, Carolina Week.
The town council says they've actually been getting some good feedback about the walkway, so hopefully it'll help out.
Yeah, and I go to Franklin Street all the time, and I'm so glad to see anything that will bring in business for those shops and restaurants.
Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.